Let's get in an economist's point of view as well. Sachchidanand Shukla of M&M Group, the chief economist there, is here with us on the phone line. Mr. Shukla, first of all, your reaction on the quality of announcements or the effectiveness they will be able to have on arresting the slowdown or the calls of all this industry, in your view? Because the rupee continued to weaken even in the opening trade. How did you see the bond market, the money market react to these announcements?
Well, there are 2 points here. One is the real economy, where the government announcements kick in. I think what it has done is the government has begun very well. And I think there were these lingering doubts whether the government has the economic revival on top of its agenda. I mean, there are a lot of things happening which were a priority on the political agenda of this government. So I think one thing is that it has dispelled the doubts that whether or not the economy remains on a to-do list of this government. I think that's clearly been demonstrated that it is. They have begun very well. And I think the FM has hinted that she will come out with 2 more sets of measures, one of which would be on housing. So I think it just tells us that at least on the sentiment part, the government is pretty much there. And I think the big concern for most people was, can they do this within the confines of fiscal prudence? I think that point we can give full credit to the government. They've not really done anything which will jeopardize the fiscal numbers. And given the global environment we are in, so this is where the global part and the bond yields question that you asked. Essentially, if you look at the backdrop, we are still not really very sure how will the Chinese and the US governments react to the trade tit for tat. I mean, we saw a barrage of statements on Sunday from Trump, and there were statements made that he wants to double down. He regrets not having raised tariffs. Post what China has done on $75 billion worth of US goods. So I think while the real economy side, this is a positive, but we definitely need to see a lot more which can really up the potential growth numbers for India, but at least takes away a lot of concern. But on the financial side, on the market side, I think we are still being held hostage to a lot of these global events and the news flow. So this is where we are, and the rupee and the bond yields are reacting to that as well.
So Shukla, the kind of global environment, the way it's developing, back home here in India, we're also grappling with slowdown issues, though there is intention of the government to take policy measures to cushion that. Going out from here on, we're also entering a festive season which typically ignites some amount of demand. Which quarter do you see Indian economy bottom out from here on 4 quarters far out?
Well, I think if you look at just the global context we are in, and also the fact that we have a couple of parameters or variables on which we can be rather surer of an incremental, say, recovery or uptick in the economy, I think we can safely say that the second half of the year is likely to be to see improvement incrementally. And the reasons why I'm saying so are a few. The first is, I mean, we have seen interest rates being cut and the RBI has played ball. We have seen a benign liquidity environment. The second and more important is, I think if you look at the fiscal part, I think there are serious challenges over there. What I mean by this is, if I look at the central government spending in quarter one, in nominal terms, it is just 2%, which means if I factor in inflation, it is negative. The capex number for the central government is down 27% in Q1. If I look at state government's capex spending, it is negative 6%. So if you look at the fiscal impulse or the fiscal spending, I think we are in a spot of bother. If the government doesn't spend, and we know that the government has been a big driver of growth, we will run into problems. And therefore, the measures announced by this government come in as a positive relief. It will revive sentiments. And the third pillar, I think, is just the sheer fact that government starts spending. We have the lagged effect of, say, RBI rate cuts and liquidity, I think these positive sectoral pronouncements are also going to give that bit of fillip. And we know that the base is also going to be favorable in the second half. So while it is difficult for me to say or time whether it is going to be Q3 or Q4, what I can say is I definitely see the economy on a slightly better footing in second half of the fiscal than the first. And we will see a lot of these data points manifest this recovery. And then the most important point is the government has begun to react to the underlying data points. The response has been comprehensive and sentiment definitely gets a boost. And at the same time, there is a lot to be done, but I think we've begun well.
Mr. Shukla, thank you so much for your time today. That was Sachchidanand Shukla of the M&M Group talk about the impact of the announcements on the economy and the growth ahead.